So here we are with the new Mercedes C-Class, the BMW 3 Series and the Audi A4. And these are three cars designed to be all things to all men.
And women. They are powerful but they're economical. They're stylish but they're practical. They're comfortable yet fun to drive.
Plus they're desirable yet they're also attainable.
But which one is best?
To find out, we're going to compare how they drive, how practical they are, and what exactly you get for your money.
It's worth pointing out that the three cars we've got here aren't matched in terms of engines or specification. For this review, we aren't comparing exact models, but the range as a whole. So let's start with the design we most like the look of.
Okay then, so the A4. Now I think it's starting to look a little bit dated. But to be fair, this is the entry car. Sportier models do look sharper.
Absolutely. Talking of sharper, this is the very sporty 3 Series. Loads of extra kit on it. Looks sleek, very distinctive. Do you think it may be too distinctive for some people?
Maybe, but what about that? That is a classy looking car.
It is. It's really stylish, isn't it? And of the three, that's the one I'd have on my driveway.
Me too.
Thing is though, Ginny, when you're driving, you never get to see the outside of your car.
Ah, and that's why a car's interior design is just as important. So which of these do we like best?
Well, we're sitting in our favourite, aren't we?
We are. It just lives up to its name, doesn't it? The only way to describe it is classy.
Yeah, I see what you did there. Very good. Yeah, it definitely moves the game on this car over the old model, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think what Mercedes have done is transform this into a mini S-Class, and it really shows in here.
The C-Class, with its stylish piano black trim and contrasting silver vents, looks very modern.
BMW's interiors have always been avant-garde and are offered in a variety of colours, but it just doesn't feel quite as special inside as the Mercedes.
It's still smarter than the Audi's cabin though, which is really showing its age now. Though to be fair, the beige trim of this car doesn't help it much. At least the A4 still feels very well built.
Talking about build quality, this is a very nice place to sit, isn't it?
It's lovely.
The quality of materials is just superb from top to bottom. Even when manufacturers often scrimp and put cheaper stuff in, they just haven't.
Not in here at all. And I like the metallic effect on the switches. It just feels posh. And also every car gets this touchpad and the swivel wheel for the infotainment system. Though I wish they'd put these direct navigation buttons down here with the wheel. It would be easier to use. I mean, why don't you do that, Mercedes? That's why I prefer BMW's iDrive. I think it's just a little bit easier to use.
We just disagree on that completely, don't we? I just find this more intuitive, and I guess it's just down to personal preference. This kind of technology perhaps just suits me better.
Okay, maybe we can agree on this though. The Mercedes and the BMW have a better system than the Audi, which just feels outdated.
Absolutely, and we've got to remember that these larger screens though are options in this. You don't normally get these as standard.
Yeah, standard, you get a slightly smaller screen.
Now let's move on to practicality. And the Mercedes comes first for in-car storage, the Audi being let down by its tiny central cubby, and the BMW by its small rear door bins.
It does have the best boot though, because even though all three models have the same load volume, the 3 Series has the widest opening.
Also, you can fold the rear seats down 40-20-40 using levers from the boot. You can do this with the Merc too, but not the A4.
We must point out though, Ginny, that the Audi is the only car to get folding rear seats as standard across the entire range.
So the BMW is the best car for carrying your stuff, and it's also the best car for carrying passengers. Handy if you want to use this as a family car too.
Yeah, it's great for giving your colleagues a lift to the marketing conference because you have more knee room than you get in the back of the Audi. It's not quite as good as the Mercedes, but the Mercedes with its sloping roof does mean that taller adults are going to struggle for headspace, whereas here in the BMW, it's actually quite a lot of room.
All three of these cars though do suffer from the transmission, which eats into the space, and in the Mercedes the footwell in the back is really quite small, so if you've got a third passenger in here they're going to be fighting for foot space. Come on, budge over, Matt, make room, make room.
That's right, you'd be playing footballs down there, wouldn't you?
Football.
All three cars aren't great for carrying 3 people in the back, are they? Not really. I mean, how far would you like to go sat there?
Next to you? No, not so far.
Cars such as these have to perform a number of tasks. They must be quiet and comfy on the motorway, sharp to drive on a twisty road and deliver strong performance, yet be cheap to run. So, how do they measure up?
Well, the A4 is the oldest car of the three. It's going to be replaced in 2015. So what do you think, Matt? Does it feel the oldest?
If I'm brutally honest, Yes, it definitely feels the oldest. I think if you bought this car and you just drove it in isolation, you'd be more than happy with it. But when you're back to back it with the other cars, it just feels like it's getting on a bit now. And you have to watch out for the sport suspension. It's way too firm then the ride, but if you go for the comfort suspension or the adaptive dampers, it's much better, though still not quite as comfortable as the other two cars.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of wind and road noise as well, which does make it the least relaxing of the three to drive on a really long journey. And you know, that is such a shame, because actually the engine is very quiet.
Yeah, the 2-litre engine in this, the diesel, it's very good. It's quick enough, it's economical enough, and it's very, very smooth. I also like Audi's manual gearboxes better than Mercedes and BMWs, and with those two you really need the autos.
Audi is famous for its quattro all-wheel drive, but unless you really need the extra grip, the front-wheel drive A4 still handles very well.
BMW now also offers all-wheel drive versions of the 3 Series, so you don't have to worry about getting stuck if it snows, and they're just as good to drive as the normal rear drive models.
Well, if your daily commute involves some really nice twisty turny roads, there's only one car out of these three that you should go for, and it's the 3 Series. BMW's claim to be the ultimate driving machine. It's just justified, isn't it? This is such a great car to drive.
I know, I mean, you just feel part of this car, don't you? It's all the controls, they just give you more feedback, and it just feels connected to the road, and you can fire it down a country road, and it feels almost like a sports car. It just puts a smile on your face. You can see I'm getting all animated and excited about it.
You're very probably excited, and the great thing is it's equally as good out on a big long motorway cruise. The suspension is great, it's not too firm, and if you go for that adaptive option, it's even better, isn't it? Like you said, I wouldn't go for the manual, mainly because this 8-speed automatic gearbox is just so good, whether it's in automatic or in manual mode.
There's also a huge range of engine choices. This is the 3-litre diesel, which is quick, yet still very economical.
However, it's the 2-litre diesel which is the big seller. It's almost as fast, and you can get the one which will do an impressive 68 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, it's just a shame though that that particular engine is noisier than the smooth 2-litre diesel in the Audi. But the worst is the 2.1 litre diesel in the C-Class, as it's the noisiest of the lot. And at the moment, the engine choice isn't as extensive as it is with the other cars.
Still, we can't complain about the economy of this car, because you can get C-Classes which can top 70 miles per gallon, and it has the lowest emissions of all 3 cars, so it's going to be very cheap to run for company car drivers.
Matt, I do need to point out that the automatic isn't quite as clean, I'm afraid. Like you said, you wouldn't put a manual gearbox in this car. It's got to be the automatic, and even then, the automatic on the 3 Series, it's just a better system.
Still, I reckon this is the most relaxing car to drive, because it's just so quiet. You get no road or wind noise hardly, even at speed, and I think the suspension, it's spot on as well.
Well, it is on this car. You know, this is the sports model. You get the comfort suspension, you've got a slightly lower ride height. It definitely gives the best blend of comfort and handling of all the C-Classes in the range.
And although you can get the C-Class with air suspension, which you can't on the other cars, and it's normally reserved for very posh vehicles, it's actually not worth having.
And while we're on the subject, despite the fact that this is also rear-wheel drive, it doesn't drive and handle quite as well as the BMW, does it?
No, I agree. The handling's not quite as sharp, neither is the steering, and it doesn't matter one bit if you're just going to be using your car to go up and down the motorway, because this is a brilliant cruiser.
Yeah, it is.
But across all different types of roads, the BMW is the better one to drive.
Agreed.
Finally, let's talk money. And generally, like for like, these cars are pretty closely matched on price. Out of the 3 though, it's the Mercedes which should hold its value best when you come to sell it on.
As for reliability, well, Mercedes as a brand came ahead of BMW, which in turn beat Audi in the 2014 Driver Power Owner Satisfaction Survey.
Right then, it's crunch time. How do we rate them?
Okay, so I think last place is quite clear. It's the Audi. I mean, bless it. It's getting on a bit now, and it's starting to show its age when you compare it to the other 2 cars. So yeah, it comes third, but which is second?
Now, this is a much, much closer call, but the Mercedes is an amazing cruiser. It's a lovely car to look at. It's a lovely car to sit inside. However, that slightly cramped headroom in the back, noisy engine, gearboxes do let it down, so I'm afraid Mercedes is in second.
Which means that first place goes to the BMW 3 Series, but only by the narrowest of margins. I mean, I think overall it's the best to drive. It's the most practical. It's got great, powerful, yet economical engines and lots of kit.
Absolutely. It's the car that can be all things to all men.
And women.
Thanks, Matt.
Click on the video windows to watch our individual reviews of the Mercedes C-Class, the BMW 3 Series and the Audi A4. Click on the play icon to watch our very latest video review and on our logo to subscribe to our channel.